Namibia has been experiencing severe fire incidents since the start of the fire season, which occurs annually from April to December, more especially when the vegetation is dry. And this is according to the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. So far in 2021, 3.4 million hectares have been burned. Now, to give us more details on this, I'm now joined by the Director of Forestry, Mr. Johnson Ndokosho. A very good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
All right. Now, there has been an increase in veld fires around the country. Briefly just talk to us about what causes these veld fires in the areas that are prone to veld fires.
Thank you for that question. Certainly when it gets hot and the temperatures are quite high and obviously the fuel is dry, when we say the fuel, we are talking about the grass that is dry and the vegetation. Then those conditions are favorable for fire. Now, so far our assessment has indicated that most of the causes of these veld fires are human beings. Either the open campfire or the people producing charcoal, or sometimes a vehicle that is driven off-road and the exhaust tend to be hot and also that tend to ignite fire. And also sometimes it's just negligent things like people throwing out cigarette butts that are not free of fire, so to say. They didn't dose it off and they just toss it in the grass, and then that obviously caused the fire to ignite. And several others, but mainly
it's man-made.
Man-made. But of course we also sometimes do get lightning fire, but in this case so far we've been just seeing incidents that of people that are handling fire recklessly.
All right. Now, earlier on in my intro, I did mention that in 2021, 3.4 million hectares of land has been burned. But statistically speaking, what is the amount of land that has been affected so far?
So far this year, we about 1.4 million hectares of land have been affected by veld fire. There's been a significant improvement from the previous year where we had 3.4 million hectares. Obviously, we have been very busy engaging the public, whether it's awareness creation, but also we have come up as a ministry with guidelines on particularly charcoal production, because there's quite a lot of fire activities involved in charcoal production. When the kilns are used to burn the charcoal, sometimes they are left unattended, or people used to leave them out in the field unattended. So we introduce a cluster burning system where we say all your kilns must be in one area, and that area must be cleared of flammable materials. And I think from ourselves and the Charcoal Association of Namibia, we've been able to at least get that message through to the producers.
All right.
And that, I think, has reduced the number of fire quite significantly. But we still are concerned. 1.4 million hectares is still a lot in terms of grazing lost in the south, everywhere in the country is really, and that poses a significant challenge and threat to especially the livestock producers. If we do not get a good rain this year, for example, then you have no grazing for your animals.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, when we talk about risks, who would you say are at risk when it comes to veld fires? Who are at risk of being harmed and being in danger when it comes to veld fires?
Well, everybody really. The properties are burned. When there's veld fire, the properties are burned. The biodiversity is obviously also threatened in that, the fire tend to burn everything on its way, small mammals, trees, the grasses, and everything on its way tend to be lost. Obviously, once that happens as well, the farmers who depend on the land for their productivity, also that production is gone. And if your farm is in the face of fire, you are likely to lose everything, and you probably have nothing to take to the bank at the end of the day, and poverty will be the order of the day. So it's really people, everybody, and sometimes we even do lose life. I think regrettably this year we lost 2 people in field fire incidents. So we just really need to up our game and make sure that we make sure that we minimize in the first place the fire incidents, and secondly that we safeguard the livelihoods of our people.
All right. Now, talking about people losing their stuff, when we look at remote areas that are far from, fire brigade services, what are some of the mitigating mechanisms that you've put in place with regards to helping these people, because they are far away from help?
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things that we do. We train people and we distribute firefighting equipment. We also do fire cut lines, because then if we have fire cut lines, it means a space that we create that is broad enough to prevent the fire from moving across the landscape. And if those are maintained, we are likely to obviously prevent, or at least spare some of the parts from being burned. Education, as we say, we educate the communities to handle fire with care, and we also involve other stakeholders, the traditional authority. But we are also saying, should the fire break out, even after all those things are put in place, we now need to go out there and suppress it.
All right. Now, what are some of your words of caution to the public that they can perhaps do when they come across a fire and all that?
Well, when they come across fire, really the first thing they need to do is to report to the authority nearby, whether it's a police or our ministry. We've got our offices dotted all over the country, so that, or the regional council and so on. Councillor office is another sort of ground level place to call, so that we can, all of us, mobilize and address the issues. But most importantly, we need to handle fire with care, because if we do not do that, we are likely to lose all our livelihoods and our grazing and so on, and that is going to have a devastating effect on our economy, especially with that we are recovering from COVID and the previous drought. So we cannot afford another disaster. So we need to do everything in our part to ensure that we prevent this field fire from occurring in the first place.
All right, Mr. Ndokosho, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and also just for the information and educating the public on field fires.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That was Johnson Ndokosho, who is the Director of Forestry in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, talking to us about field fires. And he did say this year we have lost 1.4 million hectares due to these field fires, and unfortunately we've lost 2 people. And he did mention that these fires are mostly man-made, so it is up to us to set the record straight, and also for us to be safe, we need to start looking at ourselves. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back with more.